The Galactic Council was an organization made up of the most advanced alien civilizations, each more powerful and intelligent than the last. They had explored hundreds of thousands of planets, cataloging life, resources, and dangers across the galaxy. Every world they found was neatly labeled, categorized by how dangerous it was. Most planets were marked as Class 1 or Class 2, meaning they were peaceful and easily handled. A few rare planets were labeled as Class 14. These were Deathworlds, places so dangerous that only the bravest of explorers dared to visit. Class 14 worlds were the most feared of all. Earth had never been on the radar of the Galactic Council. It was just another insignificant planet, hiding in the far reaches of space. Its inhabitants were primitive, their technology no more advanced than the other low-tech worlds scattered across the galaxy. At least, that's what the Council thought. That was until one fateful day when a mysterious signal reached their sensors. It was faint at first, just a tiny blip on their scanners, a signal coming from a distant, uncharted planet. The Council sent out a small probe to investigate, not expecting anything more than another quiet, harmless world. The probe's data came in, and the scientists on board were puzzled. Earth, a planet they had written off long ago, had something different about it. The initial scans didn't show anything out of the ordinary. Earth's atmosphere was rich in oxygen and nitrogen, its surface was covered in water, and it had a variety of life forms. But then, the probe's sensors picked up something strange, a highly unusual energy reading coming from the planet's surface. It was nothing like anything the Council had ever seen. The reading was erratic, unpredictable, and dangerously powerful. The lead scientist, a member of the Andromedan species, immediately ordered a closer look. They began sending more probes, each one scanning deeper into the planet's surface, analyzing its geological activity, its magnetic fields, and its resources. What they found was shocking. Earth wasn't just another planet with life on it. It was far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. They began receiving more data that suggested Earth wasn't just a normal Class 1 or Class 2 planet. The readings kept fluctuating between levels, sometimes even spiking far beyond what was expected. That was when the true nature of Earth's danger became clear. Earth was a Class 14 death world. The Council had never classified a planet like this before. The highest known classification was a Class 14, but those were worlds like Zygoth Prime, known for its scorching heat, earthquakes, and volcanic activity. Earth's surface, however, wasn't the cause of the terrifying classification. It was something else, something far more unpredictable. At first, the Council thought it was a mistake. Surely, they were misreading the data. The probes sent back images of oceans, forests, and grasslands. The life forms they found on Earth weren't nearly as dangerous as those found on the known death worlds. There were no giant, planet-destroying creatures, no hostile insectoids or aggressive apex predators. Yet, something about this planet made it stand out from all the rest. The problem was the humans, the inhabitants of this world. They were primitive, yes, but the more the Council studied them, the more they realized that the humans themselves were a far greater threat than they had initially believed. For centuries, humans had been living in near-constant conflict, fighting wars, and struggling to survive against the odds. The Council had dismissed them as weak and insignificant, yet they failed to see the true power of the human spirit, their resilience, their drive to adapt, and their ability to create technologies far beyond their current understanding. The Council's scientists began to theorize. Could it be that Earth's most dangerous feature wasn't its surface or its wildlife, but the humans themselves? The human race had survived endless wars, plagues, natural disasters, and environmental changes. They had created machines that could build cities in days, harness energy from the smallest particles, and even travel between stars. And their ability to survive in the harshest of conditions was unmatched. The galaxy's leaders debated the implications, Earth's violent history, its ever-present conflicts, and the humans' ability to survive against all odds made them a planet the Council now feared. But it wasn't just their history that worried the Council. It was their future. If humans could survive, adapt, and innovate to the extent they had, what could they do in the future? What weapons, technologies, and strategies could they develop? No one knew for sure, but the mere thought sent waves of fear across the galaxy. The news spread quickly. Earth, once considered a backwater planet with no more potential than any other uncharted world, had just been classified as a Class 14 Deathworld. It was as if a floodgate had opened, and every alien civilization in the galaxy was trying to process what this meant. A military task force was quickly assembled, ready to travel to Earth and gather more data. But there was hesitation in the ranks. The question on everyone's mind was, why had Earth been overlooked for so long? How had they managed to survive for so many years without attracting the attention of more powerful races? No one could answer that question. Meanwhile, human leaders were oblivious to the stir their planet was causing across the stars. They were busy dealing with their own struggles: war, politics, survival. They had no idea that their world had just become a target, and that the very survival of their species was now at risk. As the Council made plans, they knew one thing for certain. Earth was not a planet to be taken lightly anymore. In fact, it was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. And now, the galaxy had to come to terms with the fact that they had underestimated the humans for far too long. The discovery of Earth's true nature had changed everything. The once dismissed planet was now at the center of galactic attention, and no one knew what would happen next. But one thing was clear: the humans had just started to play the game, and the galaxy was not prepared for what was coming. The news of Earth's sudden classification as a Class 14 Deathworld spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Council members, some of the most powerful beings in the known universe, couldn't believe what they were hearing. How could a planet full of seemingly harmless, primitive beings, humans, be classified as one of the most dangerous places in existence? It didn't make sense. The initial shock quickly turned to fear. Fear of what Earth could become, and fear of what the humans could achieve if they were left unchecked. It was one thing to observe a death world from afar, but this was different. Earth wasn't just a planet filled with hostile creatures and hazardous environments. It was a world filled with a species that had the potential to wield power far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the vast, crowded halls of the Galactic Council, debates rage. Some believed that the humans were too insignificant to be a threat, mere insects on a tiny speck of dust in the galaxy. Others feared that Earth's population, once they reached a certain level of technological advancement, would soon be a force that no one could stand against. They had already created weapons capable of wiping out entire civilizations, developed methods to harness energy from the very fabric of space itself, and created machines that could terraform planets with a single thought. "We need to contain them before they grow too powerful," one of the Andromedan Council members declared. His species had long been known for their vast intelligence and cold logic. He was terrified by the implications of Earth's newfound power. "But how?" asked a representative from the Zunari, a race of bioengineered beings who specialized in warfare. "Earth is isolated. They have no interstellar fleet, no allies in the cosmos. Surely they're no threat." "Not yet," the Andromedan replied, his voice sharp. "But give them time, and they will be. We must act now, before they figure out how to travel to other systems." A leader of a peace-loving species, the Kylans, spoke up, her voice filled with unease. "What if we've misjudged them? What if they're not as dangerous as we think? What if this is all a misunderstanding?" The room fell silent. The Kylans had always advocated for diplomacy, for peace, but her words fell on deaf ears. No one could ignore the reality that Earth's classification had shifted everything. The Council agreed that Earth had to be monitored, and immediately. They dispatched a task force of reconnaissance ships to observe the planet, to gather as much information as possible. These ships were equipped with state-of-the-art cloaking technology, designed to stay hidden from the prying eyes of the humans. Their orders were simple: observe, but do not engage. As the task force arrived in Earth's orbit, the ships remained cloaked, hidden behind the planet's moon. The scientists aboard were nervous. This wasn't just any routine exploration. They were here to watch over a planet that had just been labeled as one of the deadliest in the galaxy. They weren't sure what to expect. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued as usual for its inhabitants. Wars were still being fought. Political conflicts continued to escalate, and nations grappled with the effects of climate change. But what the aliens didn't know was that a greater storm was quietly brewing on Earth, one that would soon pull them into a conflict that could change the very fabric of the galaxy. The humans, though unaware of the Galactic Council's scrutiny, were beginning to realize that their world had become more dangerous in ways they couldn't fully comprehend. The last few years had seen a surge in human scientific breakthroughs. Quantum computing, AI development, and advancements in energy generation had reached levels that even the most optimistic scientists hadn't predicted. Humanity was on the cusp of something extraordinary. They had learned to manipulate atomic and subatomic particles with incredible precision, creating energy sources that could last for millennia. New weapons were being developed, devices that could tear apart entire cities, possibly entire planets. But these were just the beginning. What the aliens didn't know was that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't just its technological advancements. The most dangerous thing about Earth was its people, their creativity, their adaptability, and their ability to overcome nearly any obstacle. Humans were survivors, and they would stop at nothing to protect their home. On a remote military base deep in the Himalayas, one of Earth's top scientists, Dr. Sarah Klein, was working on a project that would change everything. She had been studying the energy readings that had sparked the interest of the Galactic Council. While the Council believed the energy was unstable and unpredictable, Dr. Klein had a different theory. The power on Earth wasn't random, it was controlled. And once humans figured out how to harness it fully, nothing would be able to stop them. In her lab, Dr. Klein made a startling discovery. The energy readings were a sign of a massive, untapped potential deep within Earth's core, something that could fuel interstellar travel, weapons, and technologies that were incomprehensible to even the most advanced alien minds. The implications were staggering. This could be it, she whispered to herself, her eyes wide with excitement. This could be humanity's ticket to the stars. But there was a problem. If this technology fell into the wrong hands, if the Galactic Council or other powers discovered it, it could be used to control or destroy entire civilizations. Back in the Council chamber, the task force sent to observe Earth had reported back with alarming findings. The humans were far more advanced than they had initially thought. They had developed weapons capable of mass destruction. But worse than that, the humans were on the verge of discovering the technology that could change the entire balance of power in the galaxy, and the Council wasn't ready for that. "We've underestimated them," the Andromedan scientist muttered under his breath. "We've underestimated them all." It was clear now. Earth was no longer just another insignificant planet. It was a Class 14 Deathworld, and it was no longer just about surviving. Earth was about to become the most powerful force in the galaxy, and if the Galactic Council didn't act fast, the consequences could be catastrophic. As the task force prepared for their next move, the fate of the galaxy rested on what happened next. Would they intervene before humanity reached its full potential, or would Earth's dangerous inhabitants rise up and challenge the power of the stars? As Earth's sudden rise to prominence continued to cause ripples through the galaxy, the aliens on the task force sent to observe humanity found themselves facing a situation they hadn't predicted. What was supposed to be a quiet surveillance mission had turned into something much more dangerous. The Earthlings were no longer just a curiosity to the galaxy. They were a threat. And the task force, stuck in orbit, was about to experience the full power of Earth's potential. The task force had been observing Earth for weeks. They had carefully studied the humans' military capabilities, their technology, and their growing advances in energy production. But something had shifted. The humans were no longer content with merely looking inward. They were now reaching out to the stars. This shift occurred during what the humans called the space age, when their first successful space missions started to reach out beyond Earth's atmosphere. The task force had been observing this transition with growing concern, unsure of just how far humanity could go with their new technological advancements. What was most frightening to the alien task force was the humans' ability to rapidly adapt and improve. What had once seemed like impossible feats, space travel, artificial intelligence, quantum manipulation, were quickly becoming a reality. The humans, however, were still unaware of the looming presence of the task force. Their spacefaring efforts had been made in isolation, with little knowledge of galactic affairs or the dangers that lay beyond their planet. The task force's cloaking technology had kept them hidden for the time being, but it was only a matter of time before the humans discovered them. That time came sooner than anyone had expected. It happened when a human spacecraft, an experimental ship designed to test the waters of faster-than-light travel, accidentally detected the cloaked task force. The ship, called Voyager, had just completed a successful test of a new propulsion system that could move faster than anything else in the known universe. The humans had hoped that this breakthrough would usher them into a new era of exploration, but they weren't prepared for what they encountered. Voyager's crew was made up of a mix of military personnel and scientists, but they were unprepared for what they found. As the ship's captain, Commander Emma Harper, stared at the readings on her console, her heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. The energy signatures coming from the depths of space were unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. There were ships out there, alien ships, ships that weren't supposed to be there. Commander Harper immediately ordered the ship's sensors to focus on the strange objects. The readings were inconclusive. The ships were somehow invisible to the sensors, but their energy output was too powerful to ignore. After a few tense moments, she ordered the crew to go on high alert. They were no longer just conducting tests. They were dealing with an unknown threat. "What do you think it is, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Jacob Ford, a young officer on the bridge. "I don't know," Commander Harper replied, her voice grim. "But it's not good. They've been watching us. And now they know we've noticed." The alien task force had no idea that they were being watched. They had assumed their cloaking technology was perfect, undetectable even by the most advanced human sensors. But they were wrong. The Voyager had managed to breach their defenses, and now the humans knew they were there. The task force immediately began to scramble. They knew that the humans would eventually come after them, but they hadn't expected it to happen this soon. The alien ships were no longer safe in their cloaked states. The humans would soon begin searching for them in full force. But what the task force didn't realize was that Commander Harper and her crew were not the only ones who had discovered them. The rest of Earth's military was mobilizing. As word spread about the sighting of the alien ships, humanity's greatest minds began to work together. They realized that they had been living in the shadows of the galaxy for far too long. It was time for Earth to step into the light. The United Earth Fleet, a newly formed military force made up of the most advanced human technology, had already begun to make preparations for a potential confrontation. Earth's leaders understood the magnitude of the situation. If these aliens were capable of observing them for so long, then Earth was no longer just a small, insignificant planet. It had become a major player in the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Klein, the scientist who had made the discovery of the energy potential beneath Earth's surface, was brought in to help. She had already been working on harnessing the immense energy deep within the Earth, and now she was tasked with helping Earth's military develop weapons to defend themselves from the approaching alien threat. "I've seen the data," Dr. Klein said as she briefed Earth's top generals. "We can harness the energy in Earth's core to create weapons unlike anything the galaxy has seen. We'll be able to defend ourselves, but we need time." "Time," General Lorik said, shaking his head. "Do we have enough?" Dr. Klein hesitated. If we act now, we can develop the technology we need, but we have to be prepared. They won't just leave us alone after this encounter. Meanwhile, aboard the Voyager, Commander Harper and her crew were engaged in their own preparations. The alien ships were closing in, and their technology was far beyond anything the humans had seen. They had no idea how much firepower these ships carried, but they weren't about to back down. All hands, prepare for battle. Commander Harper barked, "If we're going to face these beings, we'll do it on our terms." The first encounter between the humans and the alien task force was inevitable. The task force's cloaking technology could no longer protect them, and the humans were beginning to gather their forces. As both sides prepared for the inevitable clash, one thing was certain: Earth was no longer a helpless planet in the galaxy. The fight for survival was about to begin, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. The fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy, now rested on the shoulders of humanity. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they fall to the powerful beings watching them from the stars? The atmosphere aboard the Voyager was thick with tension. Commander Emma Harper stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the screen displaying the enemy ships. The aliens had been in orbit for several weeks, but now it was clear. They were ready for something far worse than just observation. Target locked on the lead ship. Lieutenant Jacob Ford called out, his voice shaking only slightly despite the gravity of the situation. He was young, but he'd already seen his fair share of tense moments. Nothing, however, had ever prepared him for the terror that was unfolding in front of him. "Fire when ready," Commander Harper ordered, her tone steady. There was no turning back now. Earth was on the brink of its first true confrontation with a superior alien force. The human fleet had spent days preparing. Earth's finest engineers had worked round the clock, harnessing the power of their new space weapons. But even with all their new technology, the humans weren't prepared for what awaited them in space. The Voyager unleashed its first volley of energy blasts at the lead alien ship. The humans had learned quickly that traditional weapons wouldn't work against the alien hulls, which seemed to absorb most attacks. Instead, they had developed energy-based weapons capable of disrupting the alien shields. The first blast from the Voyager struck the lead ship's shields, causing them to flicker momentarily. But the ship did not waver. "Shields are holding," cried Lieutenant Ford. But we got their attention now. The alien ships, far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen, began to move in unison. They were organized, efficient, and terrifyingly quick. They had a methodical precision, as if their every move had been planned long before the humans ever detected their presence. Without warning, the alien ships launched a counterattack. Bright beams of energy, impossibly powerful, shot across the void, striking the Voyager and the surrounding human ships. The blasts rocked the Voyager, knocking it off course and sending tremors through the entire ship. The crew was thrown into chaos. "Damage report," Commander Harper shouted, struggling to maintain control over the bridge. "Shields are down to 30%. Chief Engineer Ramos replied urgently. "We're taking direct hits. Hull integrity is weakening." "Brace for impact," Harper ordered. She knew they couldn't keep this up much longer. The alien ships were far too powerful. But despite the overwhelming firepower the aliens brought to bear, the human fleet didn't retreat. They fought back with everything they had, using their knowledge of the alien tactics and trying to exploit any weakness they could find. "Keep firing. Target their engines," Harper ordered, trying to get the upper hand. "We need to stop them from retreating if this goes south." Meanwhile, aboard the alien command ship, things were not much better. The leader of the alien task force, a cold and calculating being known only as Commander Zalith, watched the battle unfold with an unyielding focus. Zalith had long studied the humans from afar, yet now that they were face to face with them, the alien commander was surprised. The humans were not running. They weren't backing down in the face of certain destruction. They were fighting with everything they had, and more than that, They were adapting quickly. Zalith had expected this to be an easy operation, a simple show of strength to remind the galaxy of the superiority of the alien empire. But the humans were different. Their desperation was palpable, and that desperation was becoming dangerous. "They're adapting too quickly," Zalith muttered under his breath, barely audible to his officers. "Shall we pull back, Commander?" asked a lower-ranking officer, unsure if the battle was already lost. "They're more resilient than we anticipated." Galactic looked at the screen again, eyes narrowing. "No, they must know their place. We will crush them, but we need to adjust. Recalibrate our firepower. We will neutralize their fleet." On the Voyager, Commander Harper knew the situation was rapidly deteriorating. The alien ships were relentlessly attacking, each strike more powerful than the last. Their shields were holding strong, but their hulls were starting to crack under the pressure. The humans were fighting tooth and nail, but it was becoming clear that they were outmatched. Yet there was something the humans still had: determination. "Report," Harper shouted again, trying to keep the bridge from spiraling into complete panic. "Captain," Ford replied, his voice tight, "we've got incoming. Another wave of enemy ships. They're overwhelming us. I don't know how long we can hold out." Harper's eyes flashed with fierce resolve. "Hold the line," she commanded. "We'll make them bleed. We'll make them remember why they didn't see us coming." In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Sarah Klein was working in the lab of the Voyager. She had spent days researching the alien technology, trying to understand its mechanisms and find a way to disrupt their systems. She had a theory, but it was a long shot. The risk of failure was high, but the humans had nothing left to lose. "Dr. Klein," one of the engineers called to her, urgency in their voice, "do you have something that can turn the tide?" Dr. Klein nodded grimly. "I think so. It's not perfect, but we've got to try. I've been working on an algorithm that could scramble their communication systems. It might be enough to cause confusion among their ships." "Will it work?" the engineer asked. "It's our only chance," Dr. Klein said, determination lining her words. "If I can get it installed in time, we might disrupt their command structure just enough to make them hesitate." Back on the battlefield, the humans were already on the brink of exhaustion. Their ships were battered and torn, and their energy reserves were dangerously low. But they refused to stop fighting. As the enemy fleet continued its relentless assault, a signal burst through the chaos. The human fleet systems suddenly flickered, and an unexpected interference began to play havoc with the alien ship's communications. Galactic's face twisted in fury as his crew scrambled to regain control. "What is this?" Zalith roared. "Stop them. Now." The aliens weren't prepared for this kind of resistance. The humans' determination and quick thinking had thrown them off balance, and for the first time, Zalith wasn't sure who would win this fight. The battle raged on, but something had shifted in the air. The humans had struck back in a way no one had ever imagined, and in the heart of the chaos, Earth had finally earned the respect of the galaxy. The battle had turned into a deadly dance. The alien ships, still imposing and well-coordinated, now seemed rattled. Commander Zalith, who had once been so confident in their superiority, was beginning to feel the first whispers of doubt. His fleet was not as invincible as he had assumed, and for the first time, the humans were no longer backing down. They were fighting smarter, not just harder. Commander Emma Harper stood on the bridge of the Voyager, watching the chaos unfold outside. The ship was taking heavy damage, but the crew was still holding strong. They had a small advantage now, thanks to the brilliant interference created by Dr. Klein. The alien communications had been thrown into disarray, and the alien fleet had been forced to reorganize. The humans were taking every opportunity to exploit this confusion. "Keep the pressure on them," Harper ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "We're not giving them an inch." Lieutenant Ford nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Aye, Commander. I've got our weapons recharged and ready to fire again. They're still trying to regroup. Harper could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The aliens had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. But she knew this wasn't over. The enemy would soon adapt. They had to push forward, keep the momentum on their side. Across the galaxy, Dr. Klein was busy tweaking the interference algorithm, fine-tuning it in an attempt to break through the alien ship's defenses even further. The longer they could disrupt the aliens' communication systems, the better chance they had of weakening their resolve. The Voyager fired another round of energy blasts, but this time, the alien ships were slower to react. The Voyager struck one of the alien ships, damaging its hull, sending shockwaves through the fleet. The alien ship veered off course, its shields flickering as it tried to regain its position. "We've got them," Ford shouted from the controls. That hit was right on target. "They're losing formation." Commander Xalith watched his fleet struggle from the command ship, his cold features betraying a hint of concern. The humans weren't supposed to be this tough. They were supposed to surrender, to cower under the might of the alien empire. "Why are they fighting like this?" Xalith muttered to his officers. "We should have crushed them by now. Something isn't right." His second-in-command, a tall alien known as Zara, stepped forward. "The humans, they're different from what we've encountered before. They are not as weak as we thought." "Indeed," Xalith responded, his voice dark. "We underestimated them. But no matter. We will crush them. Regroup the fleet and prepare for another strike." Back on the Voyager, Commander Harper was watching the alien ships as they began to reposition themselves. They weren't running, but they were hesitating. The humans had disrupted their command structure just enough to cause confusion, and now the enemy was on the defensive for the first time since the battle began. "We've got to keep up the pressure," Harper said, her voice tight with determination. "They're trying to recover, but we're not giving them time to breathe." "We can't keep this up much longer," Lieutenant Ford replied, his voice tinged with fatigue. "Our shields are at 10%. If we take another hit like that, we'll be crippled." Harper clenched her jaw. She knew the odds were stacked against them, but there was no turning back now. They had to finish this, for Earth, for humanity. "Get the rest of the fleet into position," Harper said firmly. "We push them now, or we'll lose everything." The Voyager and its fleet, though battered and bruised, repositioned quickly. They formed a tight defensive formation, using their remaining firepower to create a near-impenetrable wall of energy blasts, making it difficult for the alien fleet to close in. On the alien command ship, Xalith watched as his ship struggled to break through the human defenses. Their weapons were still formidable, but they were no longer as effective as before. The humans had adapted, and their ships were proving more resilient than Xalith had expected. "Prepare for Phase 2, Xalith ordered, his voice low and threatening. "We will show them what happens when they refuse to bend. Activate the disruptors." The alien fleet shifted once more. A new wave of energy rippled out from their ships, each one carrying a terrifying new weapon. The disruptors could incapacitate the human fleet's shields for a limited time, allowing the alien ships to strike with overwhelming force. Harper watched as the alien ships powered up their new weapons. She could feel the heat of the moment, the pressure mounting. If they didn't respond quickly, the humans would be defenseless. "Brace for impact," Harper shouted. "Get the shields up now." But it was too late. The alien disruptors fired, sending a wave of energy crashing into the human fleet. The Voyager shuddered as its shields flickered, and the hull groaned under the pressure. The other human ships in the fleet were also hit, their shields failing one by one. Harper held onto the console as the Voyager rocked violently. "Damage report," she shouted through the chaos. "Shields are down. Hull integrity at 50%. Chief Engineer Ramos yelled. "We're losing power." The alien fleet advanced, their ships closing in on the vulnerable human vessels. But even as the humans struggled to hold their ground, something unexpected happened. A crackle of static filled the air, and a voice came through the communication system. "This is Dr. Klein. The voice said, filled with urgency. "I've got a plan. It's a risk, but it might just be our only chance. I'm sending you the data now. Prepare to engage the secondary weapons system." Harper's eyes widened as she understood what Klein meant. This was their last shot. "Ford," she barked, snapping her attention to the lieutenant. "Initiate the secondary weapons system. Now." Ford quickly entered the coordinates, inputting the data Klein had sent. The Voyager's systems hummed to life, and a bright energy beam charged up at the front of the ship. The Voyager fired. The energy blast, unlike anything they had ever used before, shot across the battlefield, tearing through the alien fleet's formation. It struck one of the alien ships directly, causing it to erupt in a brilliant explosion. Zalith's eyes widened as the shockwave from the explosion rocked his command ship. He had underestimated the humans once again. They were not as weak as they had believed. They were fighting back with everything they had, and it was beginning to show. Harper watched the battle unfold, the tide finally turning in their favor. But she knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The humans had won a battle, but the war was far from decided. "Hold the line," she muttered under her breath, gripping the console tighter. "We're just getting started." The blast from the Voyager's new weapon had caught the aliens completely off guard. The power of the beam shattered the alien formation and sent debris flying into the void. The enemy ships, temporarily blinded by the explosion, struggled to regain control. Commander Harper could feel the moment shift in their favor, but she knew better than to relax. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The Voyager's hull groaned in protest as it continued to take damage from the alien attacks. The shields were still down, and the ship's integrity was weakening with every passing second. Lieutenant Ford was working overtime, trying to reroute power to the damaged systems, but there was only so much he could do with the resources they had left. "Report," Harper shouted as she tried to focus on the battle unfolding outside the windows. "We're down to 30% power, Commander," Ford called back, his voice strained. "We're running out of time." The secondary weapon drained more energy than expected. Harper's mind raced. They couldn't keep this up much longer. The blast had taken down one alien ship, but there were still far too many left, and they were closing in fast. On the alien ships, Commander Zalith was seething with anger. His pride had been wounded by the humans' unexpected resilience. He had underestimated them before, but he wouldn't make that mistake again. The alien fleet had regrouped, and now they were ready to launch a counterattack. "Deploy the interceptors," Zalith ordered, his voice cold and filled with venom. "We will break their lines. We cannot allow these Earthlings to think they have won." Hundreds of smaller, faster alien ships darted from the larger vessels, their sleek forms zipping through space. They were equipped with high-powered energy weapons and designed specifically for taking down agile, well-defended targets like the Voyager. The alien interceptors swarmed toward the human fleet, eager to tear apart whatever was left. Harper watched the interceptors close in on their position, and a cold chill ran down her spine. The alien strategy was clear. They'd wanted to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers, using their speed and firepower to finish them off before they could react. "Ready the last of our defenses," Harper barked. "I want every available turret focused on those interceptors. We can't let them break through." Ford's fingers danced across the console, sending commands to the ship's defense systems. The Voyager's remaining laser turrets spun into action, firing energy beams at the incoming ships. There was a flash of light as the first few interceptors were hit, exploding in brilliant bursts of color, but for every one they destroyed, two more took its place. "Commander, we can't hold them off for long," Ford called out, panic creeping into his voice. "We're too vulnerable. We need to get the shields back up." Harper didn't reply immediately. She was scanning the battlefield, her mind working at full capacity. The humans had one last chance, one last play to turn the tide and get out of this alive. They needed to hit the aliens harder than ever before. "We've got one shot at this," she said finally, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. "Get ready to fire the secondary weapon again. This time, we target their command ship." Ford looked at her in disbelief. "But Commander, our weapon's drained. We don't have enough power." Harper nodded grimly. "We'll make it work. I don't care how, but we will make it work." Just as Ford began to type in the sequence to reconfigure the Voyager's energy flow, a loud alarm blared across the bridge. The ship was shaking violently as another alien blast struck its weakened hull. "Shields are gone." "Ramos," the chief engineer yelled. "We can't take another hit like that." Harper clenched her fists. Time was running out. But then, an idea sparked in her mind. It was a risk, a huge one, but it might just be the one thing that could save them. "Ford," she said urgently, "I need you to reroute all remaining power into the secondary weapon. Everything we have left. Forget the shields. We need that shot." Ford hesitated. "But Commander, that'll leave us completely exposed." "Do it," Harper ordered, her voice a command. With a deep breath, Ford typed in the necessary commands. The Voyager groaned under the strain as the last remnants of its energy were siphoned into the ship's primary weapon systems. The flickering lights on the bridge were a reminder of how close they were to the brink of collapse. The Voyager's secondary weapon hummed to life once more, glowing with the last of its power. "Firing in 3, 2, 1, now," Ford shouted. A beam of concentrated energy shot out from the Voyager, cutting through space toward the alien command ship. The alien ships attempted to evade, but the blast was too fast, too powerful. It struck the command ship squarely, right in the heart of its massive hull. The ship erupted into flames, breaking apart in a violent explosion that sent shockwaves through the entire alien fleet. Harper held her breath as she watched the explosion unfold. The aliens had underestimated Earth once again, and now their command ship was in ruins. The rest of the fleet faltered, some ships losing formation, others retreating to regroup. "We did it," Ford shouted, his face lighting up with a mixture of relief and disbelief. But Harper knew that the battle was far from over. The alien fleet was still strong, and their remaining ships were angry. There was no time to celebrate. "Prepare for the final push," Harper said, her voice resolute. "We take them out now, while they're reeling. No second chances." And as the Voyager and its fleet rallied for one final assault, Harper couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. The aliens had thought they could crush humanity. They had fought wrong. The Voyager was wounded, but it still had fight in it. The massive alien fleet, now scattered and in disarray after the destruction of their command ship, struggled to regroup. Despite their confusion, the remaining aliens were determined to continue the battle. They had underestimated Earth once more, and it was a mistake they couldn't afford to repeat. Commander Harper stood at the helm, staring out at the battlefield. Her heart pounded, but her mind was calm. They had one shot to finish this once and for all. She wasn't about to let the sacrifice of her crew go to waste. They had fought too hard to let it slip away now. "Status report, Lieutenant Ford," Harper barked, her voice sharp and commanding. Ford's fingers flew across the console, his eyes scanning the ship's readouts. "Shields are down, but we got enough power left for one last assault. We've also got the alien fleet scattered. Their formation is broken, Commander." Harper nodded. "Good. Time to press the advantage. I want the secondary weapon charged up to full power. We're hitting them hard and fast. No mercy." "Yes, Commander," Ford replied, his voice steady. He knew what was at stake. The remaining alien ships were regrouping, but it was clear that their confidence had been shaken. They were no longer the imposing force they once were. The loss of their command ship had thrown them into disarray. Some ships were attempting to flee, others were attempting to form a new offensive, but they were all scrambling. They had lost their leadership, and now it was time for the humans to finish what they had started. Harper glanced at her crew. There was no fear in their eyes, only determination. They had become a team, each of them pushing the limits of their capabilities. She had led them through hell, and now they were going to bring it to the alien invaders. "Target the largest ship in their fleet," Harper ordered. "That one's our priority. We'll take it down, and the rest will crumble." Ford hesitated for a moment but then nodded. He knew exactly which ship she was referring to, the last of the alien command vessels. If they could bring that down, it would be the final blow to the entire fleet. The Voyager began to move, its engines roaring to life with all the power they could muster. Harper's voice rang out once again, commanding, calm, and determined. "All hands, prepare for the final assault. We are Earth's last line of defense, and we are going to end this today. Make sure the galaxy knows the price of underestimating us." The tension on the bridge was palpable. Ford rerouted the remaining power to the Voyager's weapon systems, pushing them beyond their intended limits. Every inch of the ship groaned under the strain, but they were in the final stretch now. The alien ships were closing in, but they were no longer a united force. They were broken, vulnerable, and Harper knew they had to act before they could recover. "Here we go," Ford muttered, his hand steady as he launched the attack sequence. The secondary weapon hummed to life once more, glowing with the last of its energy. The beam shot forward, cutting through space at an incredible speed. It struck the alien command ship with a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. For a moment, everything seemed still. Then, the explosion came. The alien ship's hull shattered, breaking apart in a fiery burst. The shockwave rippled outward, knocking other nearby ships off course. Some of them collided with each other, and others were sent spiraling away into the void. The remaining alien vessels were no match for the Voyager's might. The fleet, once a terrifying force, was now nothing more than a scattered mess, vulnerable to the humans' final push. "Direct hit," Ford said, his voice filled with awe. "We've done it." Harper's heart raced. The battle was not over, but they had made the first crucial step. The aliens were losing their edge, and now it was time to finish them off. "Prepare for the final strike," Harper ordered. "Take them out one by one." The Voyager and its fleet pushed forward, cutting through the alien ships with precision. Every shot, every maneuver was executed with the skill and determination that only a crew fighting for survival could muster. The remaining alien ships scattered in fear, but it was too late. The humans had already seized the upper hand. Commander Zalith, watching from his flagship, could only stare in disbelief as his fleet crumbled around him. His once proud armada, the pride of their species, was falling apart, and he had no idea how to stop it. The humans had turned the tide with ruthless efficiency, and now there was nothing he could do. Harper watched as the last of the alien ships went up in flames. The battle was over, and the Voyager had emerged victorious. The remaining enemy ships either surrendered or fled into the darkness of space, knowing they were no match for Earth's fury. "Commander, the fleet is retreating," Ford said, a relieved smile spreading across his face. "We've won." Harper took a deep breath. It was finally over. They had done it. Earth had proven that they could not be ignored. They were no longer just a small, insignificant planet in the eyes of the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. The aliens had learned that lesson the hard way. "Good work, everyone," Harper said, her voice filled with pride. "But remember, this victory is just the beginning. The galaxy will never underestimate us again." And with that, the Voyager sailed forward, its crew triumphant, but aware that they had just begun to make their mark on the galaxy. The humans had proven their strength, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.